Okay, so today's topic, today's session is about identifying security threats. So here you will learn about types of attackers, social engineering attacks, malware, software-based threats, network-based threats, wireless threats, and also physical threats. Okay, so all about identifying security threats. Okay, now let's start with identifying hackers and attackers. Yeah. So hacker, or known as attacker, we use the very generic term called attacker. They could be hackers or non-hackers, but with the skills, very high or maybe like low skills individual who have the skills to gain access to computer system, excuse me, through unauthorized or unapproved means. So that's the hacker or the attacker. Now, cracker is an individual who breaks encryption codes, defeats software copy protections, or anyone that has specialization in breaking into systems. Yeah. So you have to understand the difference between the hacker and the cracker, where the cracker normally they like to to do something out of the boundary or out of the box. Yeah. But when you, for example, try to, let's say, break your neighbor's Wi-Fi password, or guess your neighbor's password, brute force your neighbor's Wi-Fi password, and log on as an unauthorized user, you will be considered as the hacker or the attacker. Now, connotation might be like neutral or even malicious. Yeah, and there are different types of hackers and attackers, as well as the crackers. So we have white hat hackers, black hat hackers, and even gray hat hackers. Black hat hackers normally is the normal attacker or hacker that has a very good skill in terms of gaining access on a computer system, and they have malicious what do you call this, goals. Yeah, they have they can do malicious activities. They can use pre-created, pre-customized Trojans or backdoors. Now, white hat hackers are normally have a good intention. They love to do just like what the black hat hackers do, but they have a good intention in terms of designing the security of the systems, or assessing the security of the system, as well as giving some recommendation. Yeah, that's actually the white hat hackers. Now, gray hat hackers are normally almost like black hats, but they have two different what do you call this, objectives. One of the objectives is about perhaps malicious, is related to malicious activities, while the other what do you call this, objective is to help organization to improve the security. Now, these are what I have explained earlier. You can have three different type of hackers: the white hat, the black hat, and the gray hat. So basically, white hat hacker is just a hacker that helps the organization, yeah, to fix the problem. Black hat most commonly have very bad, what do you call this, or malicious objectives, while gray hat, they work in two different worlds. One is to help, one is to explore with their malicious activities. Now, how about the threat actors? Now, when we talk about the threat actors, this is also referred to as malicious actor. The entity, normally the person or group of people that is partially or wholly responsible for an incident that affects or potentially affects the organization's security. Namely, script kiddies, yeah, hacktivists, organized crimes, like for example, they can use, you know, the term called APT, Advanced Persistent Threat, yeah, group, yeah, APT group, nation states, insider, someone who work in the organization and feel unhappy, and they can actually do the attack against their own company. And of course, competitors. Those are the threat actors. So the threats could be coming from internal within the organization as well as external outside of the organization. Yeah. So so these are some explanations about the threat actors. So script kiddies, we have script kiddies, inexperienced hacker with limited knowledge, technical knowledge, rely on automated tool to hack. Hacktivists has unauthorized access to and causes disruption. They normally have their own political agenda. And insider present past employees, contractor partners that can have full access or access to proprietary or confidential information, then they might want just, you know, do the malicious things. Yeah. So attributes, threat actors attributes. We have script kiddies, for example. Yeah. So these are just to give you an explanation about whether it's an internal or external threat, the level of sophistication, resources of funding, as well as the intent. For example, the script kiddies is an external threat, level of sophistication, simple, uses automated tools, resource or funding, very minimal, gain intent or motivation, gain attention or prove technical abilities. Other than that, we have organized crime, nation state, insiders. Just another example, level of sophistication for organized crime is normally very high, sophisticated. Is an external attack, external threat attribute. Resource funding, amply funded, yeah, meaning that it will, they are most likely funded by organization or even country, yeah, like a nation state, yeah. And intent or motivation could be monetary profit through ransomware and so on. Okay. By the way, you can mute your video. You don't have to show your face for privacy. Yeah. So other than that, we have, okay, so let's repeat: script kiddies, hacktivists, organized crime, nation state, like those who created Stuxnet, attacking Iranian nuclear plant a long time ago, insiders, competitors. Yeah, so they are actually related to internal and external attack with a different intent or motivation. Yeah. Now let's move on to open source intelligence. Part of understanding the threats and vulnerabilities is actually about how we can actually get the information legally from somewhere, from publicly available resources or origins. Yeah. Resources could be coming from, resources could be traditional media, social networking, you know, Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on. Yeah. Public information, professional or academic communications, geospatial content, even from deep web. Yeah. Now, remember that identification of relevant and accurate information is the key. Yeah. You will need to make sure that you can actually practice this in public and private sector. For example, how can we, I mean, you might have a question like, why do you need to do open source intelligence? Now, intelligent information gathering is very important, specifically to understand about our common threats and vulnerabilities. Yeah. So when I was working with one of the travel agencies, we had conducted, a particular open source intelligence to find out about ourselves. And surprisingly, we were able to find a lot of things from the net, like, for example, open Wi-Fi, public IP addresses, as well as source code left in, let's say, GitHub. Yeah, those informations are very important for us to improve our security posture, so that critical information should not be left publicly available. Yeah. Now I have an activity, but I'll skip the activity. We can do this later on. I'll put this into our discussion on our Telegram group. Yeah. So basically, the activity here is about identifying types of attackers, which you have already learned in the previous topic. Let's move on a bit before we do the activity. So I will put the activity later on. Yeah, we can discuss this. Yeah, you can take a screenshot if you want. Take a photo of this. Yeah. Anyway, I'll be sharing you the this assignment or activity. Now, I believe that many of you have experience, or even very well, I would say you should be able to really understand about social engineering, since social engineering has been talked or maybe discussed outside, yeah, on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and they even have a very nice examples. If you have watched the a movie, I remember the title. The movie title is by Leonardo DiCaprio. The title of the movie is Catch Me If You Can. That's how a person can actually do what they call as impersonation. And impersonation is an example of a social engineering activity. So any activity with the goal to use deception, trickery, to convince unsuspecting user to provide sensitive data or to violate security guidelines. One of the best hackers in the world that has a very good social engineering, I would say, skill is Kevin Mitnick. Okay. So social engineering can be used to basically start with other, get the information and be a precursor to other attack, meaning that you can start with social engineering to get some information, whether it's a technical information or non-technical information. And human factor makes symptoms hard to identify. Yeah, in person, social engineering can be done in person, face-to-face, through email, on and even on phone. Yeah, they even use several types of social engineering techniques, including the normal phishing, spearfishing, yeah, smishing, and even vishing, which is via phone or voice. Now, in social engineering, the attackers normally can try to do a lot of things. They can create a fake email, pretending to be a salesperson or something like that. Yeah. So it's very hard to actually distinguish between the normal behavior with social engineering. Yeah. Someone could just, your friend maybe could simply ask about your son's birthday, your wife's birthday, and without you realizing it, you could just give those information to them. Now, effectiveness of social engineering depending on the principles. There are several principles, including the authority, posing as an authority figure, such as manager or IT administrator, or even like a CEO of the company. Yeah? Intimidation by threatening someone's job or financial situation. Consensus, taking advantage of human tendency to be part of the group. Scarcity, offering something rare or perceived value. Yeah, or perceived value. For example, in some games, when you're playing some games, you might find out that you need to buy some perhaps merchandise or something like that, and they always tell you that the merchandise is unavailable, and they always offer you the highest price of the merchandise, something like that. So make it very rare, perceived value, so that you don't have any other choice but to actually buy or purchase those merchandise. Then another principle is called familiarity, impersonating a friend or family member. And another one is called urgency, encouraging swift action to gain a reward or avoid trouble. Yeah. So urgency could be something like an attacker trying to send an SMS or short message, by using, let's say, WhatsApp or even normal SMS, telling that your family is having something, incident or something like that, and you need to transfer some amount of money. Yeah, so something like that. Okay. So as I already mentioned, there is in social engineering, you might find this very common, yeah, a term called impersonation, which is a type of social engineering in which the attacker will pretend to be someone they are not. Typically, an average user in distress or a help desk representative. So they can become someone unsuspected. Yeah, it's very hard for the help desk to determine whether this guy is the real guy or someone who pretends to be someone else. Yeah. So I would really suggest that you watch Catch Me If You Can movie. Yeah. And there you could actually find out how a very smart guy can impersonate, and become someone else. Like, for example, he can become a pilot, a lawyer, a doctor, and so on and so forth. Now, these are some of the examples of phishing and related attacks. Yeah. So as I already mentioned, that phishing is an example of a social engineering attack. Is a type of email-based social engineering in which the attackers send email from a supposedly reputable source, such as bank, or try to elicit private information from the victim. And you can actually notice that when you receive this kind of email, you'll see, somehow misspelling bank's name. Yeah, like, for example, Green City is supposed to be Greeny City. Yeah, generic greeting, allude to security breach, like if you did not initiate the transaction, someone else might have access to your account, blah, blah, blah. And link purporting to be from the official bank business or for the official bank business. And somehow I found out that many of the phishing attacks were actually using, broken English. Somehow they use, I don't know why, or perhaps because they are not really, very good in English. So when they try to translate the message from their own language to English, their English is broken, not really a good English. So that is one of the examples of possibly a phishing attack through email. Other than that, as already mentioned earlier, we have spearfishing. This is another type of phishing attack, normally targeting specific individual or organization. There's another one called walling, a form of spear phishing that targets individual or organization known to be extremely wealthy, like CEO. While spear phishing might, try to target, organizations in individual or individuals in organization that has, good job or reputation or even position, like, maybe a manager. Yeah. And there's another one called parming, which is actually an attack where a request for a website, usually an e-commerce site, is redirected to fake site that resembles the original site. And I also mentioned about phishing, which is known as voice phishing through VoIP. So basically the same phishing technique, but they use voice messaging services or VoIP. And there's another one called smishing, which is the same as the other phishing techniques, but they're utilizing the SMS text messages. Yeah. So if you are going to, for the exam, I would personally suggest that you try to understand the difference or differences between these type of phishing and related attacks. The next one is hoaxes, which is the email or internet messaging based or web-based social engineering attack that is intended to trick the user into performing undesired or unnecessary actions. Like, for example, here, this could be related to virus or hacking threats, free offers, and even something else. Yeah, and of course, knowledge is power, meaning that you'll need to understand and compare the actual message or messages with the perhaps whatever you have on Google. Yeah, or try to clarify this information with your friends. Yeah. Especially during this COVID-19, we can find out a lot of different type of hoaxes on the net. And other type of things that you will learn is also about the physical exploits. Physical exploit, meaning that someone could do their physical activities such as shoulder surfing, try to get or obtain password, and then dumpster diving, which is actually trying to inspect containers, trash bin, recycle bin, trying to find any sensitive information. Tailgating, following employee through the entrance without their knowledge, and also piggybacking, which is almost the same as tailgating, following employee through an entrance without their knowledge. In some cases, tailgating might be just like your car or your motorcycle follows your friend. When you're following your friends in the road, this is also a very simple example of tailgating. So sometimes tailgating is not considered to be, I would say, to be illegal. But the more illegal things to do is when you do the physical exploit of piggybacking. because you can actually impersonate the support staff and just follow them. Yeah, someone is raising hands. Can you type your question if you have any question on our Telegram? Okay, so if you have any question, let me know. Type any messages on our Telegram group. Okay, there's another attack called watering hole attack. This is an attack which an attacker targets a specific group, discovers which website the group frequently visited, then inject those websites with malware. Yeah, so this is quite unique. Yeah, the terminology watering hole. You just remember that when you think about watering hole, just think about planting malware on most commonly visited website, yeah, by the groups. Yeah. Okay, so we'll do the activity later on, identifying social engineering attack. And so because I have quite a lot of slides to explain, so we'll do the activity at the end of our session. Yeah. So next is malicious code. Yeah. Malicious code is an undesired or unauthorized software that is placed on target computer to disrupt operation or to redirect system resources for the attacker's benefit. Yeah. And out of that, we can actually have this malware, which is also malicious code, such as viruses, trojans, or worms, or even something else like adware, yeah, which is designed to gain unauthorized access to make unauthorized use of, or even damage computer system and network. So maybe a long time ago, some of you, including me, might just knew that viruses and Trojans are malware. But nowadays, a lot of different malware have been created, like the ransomware. That's also part of the malware. Yeah, Rootkit is also part of the malicious code. Rootkit is a software that is intended to take full or partial control of the system at the lowest level. Yeah, this is sometimes also known as system level rootkit. It's very hard to detect, very hard to identify, and very hard to remove. Yeah, so you should pray so that you won't get rootkit on your, or got infected by rootkit. I mean, your operating system. You should pray that your operating system would not be infected by rootkit, because it's very hard to identify and remove this rootkit. Yeah, so I remember that there's one very good rootkit remover by sysinternal suite. Yeah, I'll show you later on about this rootkit. Is a tool. There's a tool that would allow you to detect and remove rootkit. Yeah, it's a free tool. I just need to recall what's the name of the rootkit remover. I think that's Rootkit Refiller, if I'm not mistaken. Let me show you something. Yeah. Yeah, this is actually the yeah. So this is actually the Rootkit Refiller by sysinternal suite, part of the sysinternal suite, if I'm not mistaken, where you can actually download this Rootkit Refiller created by Mark Rosinovich in 2006. Hopefully, this tool can still be used to actually detect and refill the rootkit. Yep. Okay, so let's move on a bit. Okay, so viruses, you should know about this. A piece of malicious code that spread from computer to another by attaching itself to other files through a process of self-replication. Remember that virus or viruses is different than worm, because viruses, viruses can do what they call as self-replication. They can replicate themselves. Yeah. Human action triggers self-replication, can be used to enable additional attacks, gather data, corrupt, or even destroy data. One of the first viruses that I saw by my own eyes is a very old virus called C-Brain. Yeah, if you open up Google, you can just type C-Brain virus. Yeah, very old one. So, can you see my screen? Okay, let me.
Yes.
This is the PowerPoint.
Only the PPT. Okay. Okay, just give me a minute. Let me just close this PPT. We are on page 22. Here. Now, the previous one, the one I mentioned earlier was this one, Rootkit Refiller. Yeah, so this is Rootkit Refiller. Can you see my my web browser?
Yes.
So I'm showing you Rootkit Refiller. Okay, so you can download this for free. It was actually created. Again, please, please chat on our Telegram so it won't disturb my screen. Yeah. Okay. So this is the first one, Rootkit Refiller, used to actually, detect the existence of rootkit, on your system. And the second one, the one I mentioned, it was actually a brain virus. This virus, this was the first virus that I have seen by my own eyes a very long time ago, 1987, 1989, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So it was a very nice virus infecting the boot sector. Yeah. And according to the information, this virus was actually created by Pakistani. Yeah. Very long time ago, 1986. Yeah. Okay. Then in Indonesia, I remember that there was a virus, antivirus. Sorry, there was a virus that actually infect and remove brain. I remember the virus name is Denzuko. Yeah. This is Denzuko. Yeah. Sorry. So if you look at Denzuko, yeah, Alan Paul Bakani just mentioned about I love you worm. Worm is not the same as virus. Be very careful. Yeah. So this is an example of the virus called Denzuko. It was actually created by Denizuko. and it was actually a boot sector virus. It was created by in Bandung, Indonesia. And the good thing is that this virus was actually created to remove or to override this virus. Yeah, this brain virus. See this one? Yeah. So it says that, yeah. So it says that it removes the brain virus and changes the volume label to CBrain. Yeah, from CBrain to YC1ERP, which is the code name, radio code name. Yeah. All right. Okay. There are many different type of viruses. What do you call this? That have infected worldwide. Yeah. I mean, that have impacted computers worldwide. Yeah. Okay, so let me continue our discussion. Yeah. Now, can you see my presentation, the slide?
Okay.
Can you see the slide?
Not yet, sir. Still
Okay,
not
not
showing.
yet. Just give me a minute. Yeah, can you see my slide now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Yes,
the
sir.
slide is about viruses, right? Or worms?
Worms.
Okay, worms. Okay. All right, let me mute again. Yeah, so we got worms. Yeah, like earlier, someone was telling me about, you know, I love you virus or I love you worms, or it might be considered to virus rather than worm. Yeah, worm is a malware that spread from computer to computer without attaching itself to different files. Yeah, so we can do some discussion about this type of virus or viruses, such as this I love you. Yeah. Because according to some information, I love you was actually a worm rather than a virus. So we need to perhaps do some discussion later on. Yeah. So no human trigger necessary. Primary function is to spread, can cause problem with network bandwidth. And if there's a payload, it is probably to take control of a computer. Then we have other type of malware such as adware. Software that automatically displays or download advertisement, yeah, when it is used, normally is related to advertisement, yeah, and chances of having spyware and other malware. So we got spyware, specific installed malware that is intended to track and report the usage of the target system, yeah, and also track the user's data, yeah. Collected data includes web browser history, personal or financial information, username and password, and they normally bundle this with legitimate software. And this thing, Trojan Horses, a type of malware that hides itself on the infected system and can cause damage to a system, or given the attacker a platform to monitor and controlling the system. Not self-replicating, not attached to other files, malicious content in, you know, a package that looks very legitimate. Yeah, you can in fact create your own Trojan or Trojan horses by injecting, you know, a legitimate program with your own payload, perhaps. Yeah. So try to watch a movie named Troy, where you can actually learn about the actual Trojan horse. And we have Keylogger, which is normally a hardware device and even application, software application that recognizes and records every stroke made by users. Normally captures any sensitive data such as username, password, and even can affect keystroke authentication. Yeah. We have remote Trojan, remote access Trojan, specialist Trojan horse that specially aims to provide an attacker with unauthorized access to or control of a target computer. Okay, it mimics the behavior of legitimate remote control application, can hide in games and other application. Is also, that's why they call it as Trojan, because you can actually create the embedded application with the legitimate application with your own remote access. Yeah, and downloads an email attachment. Yeah, we have logic bomb software that sits dormant until a specific date. It will trigger something that will what do you call this, satisfy the conditions such as specific time and date. Yeah, so it will automatically detonate the logic bomb. It will automatically stop the software to run or even causes or erase data. Yeah, and we know about botnets, a set of computer that has been infected or have been infected by a control program. And when they are together, they are known as botnets or bots, or even sometimes they call it as zombies or drones. A computer that has been infected with bot and is being used by the attacker. So when you have, like, you know, a lot of infected, you know, computers, including laptop or servers, they could be used as the bots, and when they are combined together, creating, you know, a lot of networks, they will be called botnets. Yeah, and the goal of having botnet is to assist the attacker to do denial of service attack, sending spam emails, or even mine personal information such as username and password, or, you know, other personal information, and the activity may not be able to be detected by the users. So this is just an example of the botnets where the attacker is known as Spotmaster. They will use command and control server. Most commonly, they will communicate through IRC, Internet Relay Chat, that will allow them to send commands to activate and tell the zombies to do something like attacking a particular website, doing denial of service or distributed denial of service attack on the target or the victim. Yeah. And we know about the ransomware. Yeah. Software that enables the attacker to take control, and normally they demand payment. And we have the Bitcoin. Normally, Bitcoin and crypto malware are related because they want us to send the payment in the form of Bitcoin. So crypto malware is a form of ransomware that uses encryption to render the victim's data inaccessible. Most common ransomware will encrypt data on a victim computer or infected computers. Yeah. So example, just like WannaCry. And we have a lot of different other types or different types of ransomware. Yeah. And they continue to be a major threat. You know, a lot of ransomware attacks have been reported, and until today, there's no single bullet to actually, you know, remediate those infected computers. WannaCry, very common. Yeah. And we have advanced persistent threat, which is a threat that uses multiple attack factors to gain unauthorized access to sensitive resources and then maintain that access for a long period of time. So advanced persistent attack could be a very sophisticated attack that has the objective of getting, getting the data, exfiltrate the data from, from a particular organization or company. So it's like stealing the data, and it's very hard to detect. They could be remain undetectable for a very long time period. Yeah. So one example of this is Stuxnet. Yeah, you can try to find information about Stuxnet, which is a very simple example of the advanced persistent threat. Stuxnet itself was actually using 3 to 4 different 0 days created by the hackers. Okay, we'll do the activity identifying types of malware later on. Yeah, you can take a screenshot on this one or take a photo. We will do some discussion about the types of malware. Yeah. Okay. Now, the other part of this topic is about software attacks. Any attack that targets software resources, including operating system, applications, services, protocols, and file. Yeah, disrupt or disable service or software running on the target, exploit the target to gain access, and normally gain secret control. Yeah, so this type of attacks are very unique, and it's very hard to actually, tackle this type of software attack because you need to know how to do or how to practice what do you call this, the secure software development. Yeah, you need to understand how to actually remediate this kind of software attacks. Yeah, examples include SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and so on and so forth. We'll do more. We will dig deeper. I will explain to you more about this when we have a special session about the software attack. Yeah, so we'll review this. And next is password attack. Yeah, you know about this one. Yeah. When you do brute force attack, trying to get unauthorized access and use those passwords, these are considered to be password attack. Yeah, you can guess, you can crack, you can also try to get some information from the logs. Yeah, basically there are 2 different types of password attack. The first one is known as brute force. The second one is known as dictionary attack, where you use the dictionary. Brute force meaning that you will need to try every possible combination to find the password, and you can do it online. Yeah, by attacking a specific service or by using pre-compiled password, or by using pre-captured or whatever captured password you have. Yeah, when you have access to the victim machine. Yeah. So different type of attacks related to password include guessing, stealing. You can sniff. You can do man-in-the-middle attack, man-in-the-middle of attack, dictionary attack, as I already mentioned, using dictionary words, brute force, trying every single possible combination. Yeah. Rainbow table attack, where the attacker will use pre-created or pre-generated hashes in advance. They can create like MD5, SHA-1, and so on. Then they compare the target hash to the table entries. You can combine the attacks with dictionary, rainbow, and brute force, and even birthday attack, which is actually to exploit the algorithm used to generate the hash. Yeah. Please do some reading on different type of password attacks on your Security Plus manual. Yeah. And the other one is cryptographic attack, which is the software attack that exploit weaknesses in cryptographic system elements such as codes, ciphers, protocols, and key management system, and primarily used to decipher encrypted password. Yeah, like for example, if I'm not mistaken, 1 or 2 years back, researchers found 2 different types of attack. I remember one was the Spectre, yeah, which is actually the attack related to cryptography, yeah, and also perhaps like Poodle, yeah, SSL attack, or even like Heartbleed attack. Heartbleed attack is an example of the cryptographic attack. Yeah. Please do some reading on different type of cryptographic attacks. Yeah. So these are the summary of types of cryptographic attacks, such as known plain text, chosen plain text, ciphertext only, and chosen ciphertext attack. Yeah. So when you found, for example, plain text and you correspond with ciphertext, that is known as known plain text attack, or KPA. Yeah. Or when perhaps when attacker analyzes selected ciphertext messages and trying to find matching plain text, this is called chosen ciphertext attack. Yeah. If you have watched a movie named The Imitation Game, you could actually find out how the guy, you know, this Alan Turing was able to actually find the correct, what do you call this, the matching plain text, and even find the key to the, you know, the encrypted messages. Yeah, and the other one is downgrade attack, when the attacker exploits the need for backward compatibility, and attacker will force computer to abandon the use of encrypted messages in favor of plain text messages. We also have replay attack. Yeah, this replay attack is commonly used in wireless attack or Wi-Fi. For example, WEP, Wired Equivalent Protocol attack, as well as weak implementation attack. It's about how we can actually take advantage of the cryptographic implementation, cryptographic system implementation. Yeah, sorry about my English. Yeah, sometimes very hard to pronounce things like this. Yeah. And then we have other type of attack like backdoor attack, when the attacker uses software application or bogus user to gain access. And normally this is a mechanism for gaining access to computer that bypasses or subvert the normal authentication method. Yeah, they can be delivered by the, what do you call this, the Trojans, or through the Trojan, or even malware. Yeah. Yeah. I think someone is trying to mess up my screen. Sorry, I need to repeat this. Yeah, I think, yeah, this one. Guys, please try not to mess up my screen, or else you will be banned. Yeah. So we are trying to make the presentation and class running smoothly. Yeah. So please behave. Okay, then we have takeover attack, which is the attack that provide remote access and control. Yeah, so we could just create a very simple backdoor. I will be teaching you on how to create a backdoor by using, let's say, MSF Venom on our next session, specifically in Siza Plus and Pentest Plus. Yeah. And as already mentioned, that we have application attack, a software attack that targets web-based or other client-server application, which also include the Android and mobile attack, yeah, mobile application attack. Threaten application, web servers, users, backend system, and lead to authentication breaches, impersonation, information disclosure, source code issues, and other breaches. You know that the software code is the software instruction, so we can actually do the checking on the application to find out whether the application has a problem with the insecure what do you call this application or insecure code. Okay, so we have client-side attack, which is normally, utilizing the exploit, the trust relationship between client and server. And we also have the web application attack that focuses on those applications that runs on web browser. So you can do a lot of different type of attacks. You can actually do like cross-site scripting, SQL injection, maybe like, IDOR, the indirect object references, and many different type of attack. Yeah. So for web application attack, let me stop the share for a while. Yeah. So OWASP top 10. Guys, can you see my screen? OWASP browser?
No.
No, sir.
Sir.
No. Okay, just give me a minute. Yeah, so let me share my screen again. Yeah, so this is OWASP. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, so for more information about different types of software web-based application attack, please do some reading on this. You can download this OWASP top 10. Yeah, so this is OWASP top 10. The latest version is 2017. The top 10 most critical web application security risk, where you can actually find out about the so this is the one. Yeah, so we have injection, broken authentication, sensitive data exposure, and so on and so forth, up to number 10, insufficient logging and monitoring. Okay, so we can do you can read the description about the top 10 application security risk 2017. Yeah, beside that, you can also check CWE top 25, also known as SANS. Yeah, so this one. Also commonly used by a lot of people, specifically bug hunter or bug hunting platform. They use CWE top 25, basically almost the same. They have 25, lists of 25 flows or software errors. Yeah, like for example, this one, SQL injection, CWE 889. This is the same as SQL injection. Yeah. All right. So let me show you different share. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Presentation. Yeah, presentation. Okay, good.
Yes, sir. We can see your slides.
All right. So, so we got the client-side attack. Yeah, so all of these are based on OWASP, cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, command injection attack, zero-day exploit, buffer overflow, and so on and so forth. So please do some reading on this to understand about different type of application attack, because in the exam you will be asked to understand and answer the correct, provide the correct answer related to the question. Normally they will give you like scenario, and you will need to select whether this particular example is related to cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, and so on. So most common question would be related to very common attack, like such as SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and command injection, even cross-site request forgery. Be very careful. You need to understand the differences between cross-site scripting and cross-site request forgery. Do some reading on this one. So I hope that you could actually understand the difference. Yeah, we'll do some discussion on understanding more about this application attack later on. Yeah, and then other type of attack include driver manipulation, and also we have shimming, refactoring, and so on. Yeah, so different type of attacks. So some questions will be related to what is actually shimming, for example, which is the process of developing and implementing additional code between the application and the operating system to enable functionality that could otherwise be unavailable. Yeah. Other type of attack is known to be privilege escalation, the practice of exploiting the flows of the organization of the operating system. And normally, you will when you do the privilege escalation, you will need to increase the what do you call this? The privilege that you have. We have two different type of escalation. Vertical, meaning that you can when you have gained the access as let's say user A, then you could basically try to see or try to gain access as user B. That's called vertical escalation or elevation. Now, what we want, yeah, sorry, I was telling you the wrong one, is a reverse one. So vertical elevation, meaning that when you have access to a particular system and you want to have access or full access as a root or administrator, then you have to increase your level of privilege to the highest one. This is called vertical escalation. So user to root, user to admin is an example of the, or they are the examples of vertical escalation. Horizontal, meaning that from user A, you can actually access as user B. That is an example of the horizontal escalation. Yeah. So you can see this in the example. From group to elevated user is known as vertical escalation. Yeah. Okay, so we'll skip the activity and then we'll do that later on. And TCP IP basic, very important for you. So I supposed to start with the Network Plus lesson, but because of something, we started with the Security Plus. But no worry, I will try to provide the Network Plus to make sure that you understand TCP IP. Yeah, you have to understand terminologies like three-way handshake, how the TCP IP works, protocols, and so on and so forth. So don't worry about that. We'll go into details when we discuss, the Network Plus lesson. Yeah. So perhaps I will skip this. Yeah. And yeah, so basically we have to understand network. I mean, this is actually the DoD layer, or TCP IP layer, where we have the application, the transport, the internet, and network interface. Yeah. And then we have other type of attack normally happens in the network. Spoofing attack, a network-based attack where the goal is to pretend to be someone else. You can do like, of course, the purpose is to make sure that nobody can actually identify you, yeah, or known as identity or identity concealment. Yeah, so you can do MAC address spoofing, MAC address, IP address spoofing, or poisoning or spoofing, including DNS poisoning and spoofing. Yeah. So this is just an example, the IP address spoofing, where the attacker sends IP packet from false source address to communicate with the target. So basically, you tell people, or you tell other computers that, hey, this is my IP, this is my MAC address, where your MAC address and the IP is not actually that one. Yeah. So you can spoof the packet by, doing the this technique, yeah, to make sure that they won't be able to catch you. Yeah. For example, like Nmap, one of the most commonly used port scanner, you can actually scan with spoof IP or even MAC address. Yeah. Yeah. So this is MAC address spoofing. Yeah. So basically, to fool people, to fool other computer to believe that your MAC address or your IP is this, where in the actual one, your MAC address is something else. Yeah. And then we can also do R poisoning, yeah, the network-based attack, where the attacker, which has access to the target network, redirects IP traffic to the MAC address of a computer that is not intended recipient. Yeah, this is also known as the ARP spoofing. And normally, when you wanted to do like, the man-in-the-middle attack, you will need to start by spoofing your ARP. Yeah, specifically in a switch network, switch-based network. But in Wi-Fi, if you want to do the man-in-the-middle attack using, for example, like Wireshark or WinDAM, TCP DAM, you don't really have to do the ARP spoofing or this kind of ARP poisoning. Because in Wi-Fi, in wireless, you are not actually using switch. You are actually using your Wi-Fi as a hub. Okay, then a network-based attack where the attacker exploit the open nature of DNS to redirect a domain name to different IP address, known as DNS spoofing. While DNS poisoning is to make sure that your target or your victim believe that the domain name and the IP existed, and you can actually redirect. For example, when someone wants to access google.com, it will redirect you because your DNS has been poisoned. Your DNS will translate your google.com to something else, a fake google.com or something else. Okay, then we have other types of attacks like port scanning, which is part of the information gathering. A network-based attack where the attacker scans computer and other devices to see which ports are listening in the attempt to find a way to gain unauthorized access. For example, when you use Nmap to find open ports on servers or particular servers, that's also considered or is already considered as port scanning attack. So the objective is to actually find the open ports and exploit those open ports to gain access. And there are many different types of scans. We'll discuss this in our other lesson, like Pentasplash and CISA, but I will give you a very basic understanding about different types of scanning, like stealth scan, which identify open port without completing three-way handshake. We have full connect scan, banner grabbing, and so on and so forth. And other type of attacks includes eavesdropping, or normally known as sniffing, a network attack where the attacker, which uses special monitoring software such as Wireshark, can actually get the information. Okay, then I already mentioned about man-in-the-middle attack. When you want to do sniffing or eavesdropping, you will need to perform this man-in-the-middle attack. So you need to have the client, the gateway, and you yourself. So you can actually find a lot of different YouTube videos about man-in-the-middle attack, which allows you to steal, fraudulent information. Sensitive information for fraudulent use. So this is just an example of how man-in-the-middle attack can be done. And we also have man-in-a-browser attack, a network-based attack that combines man-in-the-middle attack with the use of Trojan Horse to intercept and modify web transaction in real time. So normally they will get like the sensitive information about the user. And the replay attack, as already mentioned, the attackers will capture network traffic retransmitting at later time and gain authorized, unauthorized access to specific hosts. Normally happen in Wi-Fi or wireless. So this is just to give you an idea about replay attack, but it is actually quite complicated to do. I would suggest that you can actually, let me give you an example of this. You can use this tool called Aircrack NG. Okay, let me show you the Aircrack NG. Can you see my screen? Aircrack?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So Aircrack has a very nice tool called AirReplay. You can just open up this main document. So with a proper, wireless card and Kali Linux, for example, you can do this AirReplay. So AirReplay is a tool in Aircrack NG suite, which allows you to inject frames, yeah, and do replay attack. Yeah, so different type of attack, total up to 9 type of attack. So we got this de-authentication, fake authentication, interactive packet replay. This is the one I mentioned, yeah. Or even ARP request replay attack. So this one, yeah. And there's another one called ARP request replay attack. Yeah. Okay. Okay, then of course we know about this one, denial of service attack, or DDoS or DOS. So DOS. So let me give you an idea. Denial of service attack is normally a network-based attack where the attacker tries to disrupt or disable system that provide network services. Now, denial of service attack normally comes from a single system. Yeah. While distributed denial of service attack, known as DDoS, is actually coming from, or they are actually coming from, multiple sources. Yeah, like remember the botnets earlier? Yeah, the botnets, the drones, the zombies are used to launch distributed denial of service attack because they are huge, they are large, they can actually do a lot of different type of attack. Yeah. Yeah, so this is the one I mentioned. So that's the difference between DOS and DDoS. Just remember that DOS comes from one single source, while DDoS attacks should be coming from multiple sources. Yeah. So use unauthorized software to create bots, and normally they use a lot of different techniques to, to launch denial of service attack to many simultaneous sources. Okay. And we have hijacking attacks, which include clickjacking, DNS jacking, domain hijacking, a group of network-based attack where the attacker gains control of communication between two systems, often masquerading as one of the entities. Yeah, so we can find the hijacking, DNS hijacking, and domain hijacking. Yeah, like for example, very simple attack would be attacker steals domain name. Yeah, or domain takeover. Also another name of domain hijacking. So attacker hides link under the web page element, could be a clickjacking. Yeah. So try to do some reading on different type of hijacking attacks. Yeah, including session hijacking, where the attackers will exploit legitimate computer system. Legitimate computer session and then take over that session, as well as URL hijacking or typo squatting. Like for example, attackers will use or register different names but closely resemble the names of legitimate website. Like for example, Accenture, they remove the C, become Accenture, yeah, something like that. Yeah, so Accenture, or maybe you can put like East West Bank, but they use like East West without space or something like that. So they can try to create something very lookalike, yeah, very similar, so that the victim will be I would say will be tricked to click the link. Yeah. And beside that, we have the amplification attacks, network-based attack where the attacker dramatically increases the bandwidth to send a victim during distributed denial of service attack, which include ICMP, DNS, UDP, and TCP. Yeah. Different type of attacks include ICMP implication, like in Smurf attack, they use ICMP, DNS amplification, UDP amplification, yeah, for example, used by Fraggle attack, as well as NTP amplification, yeah. And very modern attack known as pass the hash, where the attacker still hash user credential from a particular system. You should actually find an example of this pass the hash attack in one of my videos. So what we need is to steal the hash of the user credential and then use that particular hash or hashes to attack other system in the same network or in the same data center. For example, you grab one or maybe you hack one of the system, grab the hash, and then use that hash as the password to authenticate to other system in the same network. Yeah, so no need for password cracking. You can actually take advantage of the single sign-on protocol such as NTLM and Kerberos, as well as having all Windows system to use Kerberos as their own authentication mechanism. Yeah. Okay, so we'll also do this activity. We'll skip some of the activities, but I will tell you what to discuss later on. Yeah. And the other type of attack is rogue access point, unauthorized access point, when someone set up, yeah, a fake access point, hoping that the victims or the users will connect to the rogue access control or the rogue access point. That would allow them to do man-in-the-middle attack. So the idea is to set up a fake Wi-Fi and then do more type of attacks. Yeah, it's very hard to detect this. You need to do scanning to find this particular rogue access points. Yeah. Now, evil twins is also related to this Wi-Fi, unauthorized wireless access point that deceive users into believing that there are legitimate network access points. So you can actually set up a very simple Wi-Fi hotspot by using the same name. Yeah, like for example here, one is DV Tech. The legitimate wireless access point uses DVTECH, so DVTech01, while the evil twin uses DVTech01, but not the one. They use the exclamation, I think this is an exclamation mark, or yeah, I forgot the name of this symbol. Yeah, so anyway. Then we have other type of attacks such as jamming. Yeah, you should know this one. So try to jam the communication over wireless, also known as interference. So the idea is to jam and intercept transmission. Yeah. And other type of wireless related attacks such as bluejacking and Bluetooth. Yeah, do some reading on the bluejacking or wireless attack, where the attacker sends unwanted Bluetooth signal from a mobile phone, smartphone, tablet. Yeah, while Bluetooth itself is actually a kind of short-range wireless radio. You should very well understand about this Bluetooth. Yeah. Yeah, different type of Bluetooth attacks, including blue snarfing or wireless attack, when the attacker gains access to unauthorized information on a wireless device by using Bluetooth connection. Yeah. And also the NFC, you should also be familiar with NFC, communication standard for wireless devices in close physical proximity. We have the example here, like Android Pay, Apple Pay, and Samsung Pay, which allows you to, top up your balance and so on by taking advantage of the NFC, or near field communication attack. Yeah. And also the RFID. Nowadays we use RFID and almost every day. Your toll payment, yeah, toll gate payment or toll payment, your highway payment, or maybe you can actually use this to, pay your purchase in a supermarket, yeah, or in a small and medium enterprises. Yeah. So technology that uses electromagnetic field to automatically identify and track tags or chips affixed to selected objects. Yeah. And normally they can do like, you know, a lot of different type of attack. Like for example, they can do a jamming, they can do like stealing. That's why we, you know, some people, I mean, are afraid of using this RFID because someone could just, you know, accidentally get the, what do you call this, the RFID card being stolen, or even use the unauthorized device to do the tapping. Yeah, because they can actually create a very simple you know, reader. Yeah. And other type of attack, you should know: wall driving, wall chalking, and wall walking and wall chalking. Yeah, just a very simple one. I'm not very sure whether you can actually find this type of attacks in your country. Yeah, yeah. So do some reading. Packet sniffing. This is part of the sniffing and eavesdropping, which uses protocol analyzer to capture data and register data flows, which include also the use of Wireshark or any type of protocol analyzer. Yeah. And part of the wireless attack is this one called IV attack, initialization vector attack, which allows you to predict and control the IP used in encryption process. Normally very useful when you do WEP cracking. Yeah. And wireless replay attack, as I already mentioned, you can use like AirCrack NG to do wireless replay types of attack. Yeah. And you can usually use the IV to attack or to break weak encryption. Yeah. And many other type of wireless attacks such as WEP and WPA. While WPA is Wi-Fi protected access, this is more, I mean, this is actually stronger than WEP. By default, or according to my, or based on my experience, I could easily crack WEP 128 bits within perhaps a few minutes. While when you're using WPA, it's a bit hard to actually, you know, crack, because the password could be, you know, a very complex password, and the only way you can actually do Wi-Fi cracking is by using the dictionary attack rather than brute force attack. Yeah. Also WPS, which is normally related to the PIN. Yeah. So a wireless attack where the attacker leverages an insecure nature of the WPS, Wi-Fi protected. I think WPS is Wi-Fi protected something. Yeah. That allows wireless connection based on 8-digit PIN. So we normally use tool to actually, you know, crack the PIN number. Yeah. So based on the checksum, yeah, 3 digits, total pins, 8-digit pins. Yeah, where you can have like a lot of possibilities to get the access to the device. So let me just, yeah, so WPS again stands for Wi-Fi protected setup. Yeah. So when you bought a new router or Wi-Fi access point, please change and modify the default PIN and or password. Yeah. Or do not use the PIN, use password. Yeah. Stronger password. Yeah. So this is another type of attack for wireless. This association, a wireless attack, when the attacker spoof the MAC address. This should also be easily done by utilizing tools such as AirCrack NG. Yeah. And for the activity, you should also try to identify different type of wireless threats. All right. Let me see how many more slides I have. Yeah, I think not too many. Let me just continue. Now, physical threats and vulnerabilities include any vulnerabilities associated with the facilities or hardware. For example, like theft, yeah, and different type of attacks such as hardware attacks that would attack target computers' systems such as hard disk, motherboard, keyboards, network, and smart reader. And they can try to render data unavailable to the owners. So basically, destruction of your hardware. The idea is actually to acquire sensitive information. Yeah, and you can see other type of threats and vulnerabilities related to environmental, such as fire, catastrophic weather events, flood, yeah, extreme temperature, and extreme humidity. Yeah, so those are the examples of physical threats. So here in this, so let me recap or summarize this session. So we have learned a lot of things about, let me just skip, do a quick one. So we have learned about types of attacker, social engineering attacks, malware, software-based threats, network-based threat, wireless threat, as well as physical threats. Yeah. So I would suggest that you do the activities within the group. You can discuss different types of attack. And if you have any question related to those kind of threats, vulnerabilities, and attacks, let me know. We can do discussion in our Telegram group. Okay, so yeah, any question? If you have any question, please do the discussion in our Telegram. All right. So I think that's all for today. Let's do some discussion related to this topic. Yeah. So this topic is about identifying security threats. Okay. So this is the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and see you, or yeah, I can't actually see you. I can see you in our next session. Yeah, you can turn on your video if you like. Yeah, and hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you.